I'm a socially anxious manga artist who draws BL with dual male leads. My new neighbor is tall, strong, and intimidating, the type who looks fierce enough that no one would dare provoke him. He's exactly the kind of powerful, dominant character I love to draw. But I'm timid and easily scared, so whenever I see him, I hide. Later, when I was being stalked by a creep, I turned pale and knocked on his door. Mem, may I stay at your place for the night? The man's sharp brows tightened slightly as he stepped aside. Come in. After that, he lifted me up, pressed me against the wall, and growled in a low voice, Baby, is this enough tension for you? Me. Chapter 1. Ever since the new neighbor moved in, I've only seen him 5, maybe 6, no, definitely 8 or 9 times. A couple of those were even times when he came knocking on my door. To be honest, the man is ridiculously handsome, tall, sharp-featured, with a presence so strong it could stop traffic. The first time I saw him, my brain practically short-circuited with inspiration. He radiates that wild masculine energy that hits like a punch. His looks, his build, and that intimidating aura of his, everything about him screams explosive strength. A textbook alpha male leading man type. The moment I saw him, I felt like I could immediately sketch the perfect, impossibly charismatic character. Unfortunately, I'm a homebody with the courage of a hamster. I have germophobia, OCD, paranoia, all the fun stuff. Basically, my mental state isn't great. Not bad enough to want to die, but just enough to constantly feel like someone is out to get me. I'm terrified of everything, and hardly ever leave the apartment. We didn't interact much at first, just a few times when I ventured out to hunt for food. And once, when he first moved in, he brought me a housewarming gift. I opened the door and nearly forgot how to breathe. Standing there was a man in nothing but a black tank top. His broad chest looked like it was about to rip the fabric apart, and his biceps were so defined they almost cast their own shadow. He was like a walking brick wall. The moment he saw me, his sharp eyes lowered, and this strange oppressive pressure hit me straight in the face. His gaze was so intense it almost burned. Hi, he said, voice deep and rich. I'm the new guy next door, Marcus. His appearance already matched my ideal main character, Sema, but did he really have to sound exactly like one too? I rubbed my ear without thinking, trying to steady myself. A quick glance at that strong, handsome face told me he was actually quite young, possibly even younger than me. Hi, I'm Jammy. My eyes drifted everywhere except directly at him. My voice wasn't quiet, but it was soft. Is something wrong? Just saying hello. We're neighbors now, gotta look out for each other. This is for you. He handed me the bag in his hand. His tone was casual, but firm, like he didn't take no for an answer. I let go of the doorknob, wiped my palm nervously on my shirt, and took it. Oh, thank you. Could you wait here for a moment? I accidentally made eye contact again and forced myself to stay calm. Marcus replied, expressionless, Sure. I scurried into the living room, brain spinning like a dying motor. What should I give back as a return gift? When I looked around, I realized everything I owned was anime merch. There was no way I could hand that to a guy who clearly didn't belong in the otaku universe. So in the end, I picked out the nicest fruits from my fridge and brought them to him. He was surprised I was returning the gesture and immediately refused. No need. Keep them for yourself. Then he turned and went back to his place, cool and distant. After the rejection, I awkwardly pulled my hand back. Once I shut the door, my brows furrowed. Did I offend him? Did my return gift come across as insincere? Did he hate me now? I worried about it for a long while. We were neighbors. What if we ended up getting along badly? I even started contemplating moving away. So when Marcus knocked again a second time, this time to borrow some tools, I actually felt relieved. If he was willing to borrow something from me, that meant he didn't hate me, right? Maybe he was just naturally cold. While searching for the tools, terrified he'd get impatient waiting, I attempted small talk. You know how to fix water pipes? Marcus had stepped inside but didn't look around or try to sit. Yeah, he said with a low hum. He took the tools, thanked me, and left. Back in his own apartment, Marcus dropped his tank top onto a rack and headed straight to the bathroom to start fixing the pipes. Thinking about how frantic his soft-hearted neighbor had been while looking for the tools, he let out a small laugh. He seemed gentle, like a fluffy little bun. Easy to get along with. It made Marcus feel that choosing to live here wasn't so bad after all, even if the pipes had exploded. This place hadn't been used for years. No wonder the facilities were falling apart. Chapter 2. When Marcus returned my toolbox, he wasn't wearing a shirt. Not only that, there were actual droplets of water sliding down his chest. His skin looked warm, tanned, and glossy, the kind that only comes from years of working out. My face instantly turned red. I swear I'm supposed to be straight. At the very least, I've never had feelings for a man before. But Marcus's body was too much. Before I knew it, my brain started showing me scenes that were definitely not appropriate for children. Wet clothes, steamy bathroom, a strong, muscular body towering over a slimmer, delicate protagonist. The height difference, the strength difference, even the contrast in skin tone. Everything collided like an explosion of hormones. Stop. Stop. Imagining someone like this is extremely rude. Thanks, Marcus said. Despite his intimidating looks, he was actually very easy to get along with. Before leaving, he added, "If there's anything you can't handle, you can come to me." I nodded quickly. "Okay, thank you." Marcus raised an eyebrow. He could tell I had a kind of innocence that hadn't been crushed by society yet. People like that were easy to bully, easy to take advantage of. His tone became noticeably warmer. "I should be the one thanking you. See you." I smiled softly. See you." We didn't meet often, but one time I ran into him at the smoking area in the hallway. Smoke drifted past his lips, and because I always saw him through an anime filter, he somehow looked even more handsome in the hazy mist. Naturally, my imagination immediately started projecting ambiguous, hazy scenes. Another protagonist appearing before him, smiling as he pulls the cigarette from Marcus's mouth, lifting Marcus's chin with a fingertip, leaning up to whisper, You smoke?" I blurted out, snapping back to reality the moment Marcus looked my way. Feeling guilty, I added, "Smoking is bad for your health." Right after saying it, I bit my tongue. Why was I talking like I had no sense of boundaries? But Marcus just crushed the cigarette in his hand and said calmly, "Heading out?" I nodded. Yeah, just going out to buy some food and stuff." Then Marcus suddenly said, "You don't go out much." His words startled me. How did he know I don't go out? Had he been watching me? That's scary. Good looks don't stop someone from being a potential creep. Marcus, of course, had no idea what kind of nonsense was going through my head. He simply explained, "I haven't been working lately. When I'm in the living room, I can hear you saying thank you to the delivery guy. Sometimes you mutter to yourself on the balcony. Things like, 'Grow up well, okay?' Wow, it smells so good. Sorry, I made you die again." Yes, I talked to my plants. The balconies weren't connected, but they were outdoors with only about 2 or 3 meters between them. Marcus had looked once. The balcony next door, mine, had several flower pots. Me. Why did it suddenly feel like I was the creep here? I didn't disturb you, did I? No, I just have good hearing. Actually, he was just bored. Hearing faint mumbling, he'd gone over quietly to listen. After saying that, he walked out of the smoking area. Going back. I watched his back disappear, and only when I heard his door close did I finally return to my own apartment. My brain sighed. Damn. What a cool guy. Within just 2 or 3 months, I had grown a lot more comfortable with Marcus. I confirmed that he was simply a cool-looking guy with a fierce resting face, not a creep. In fact, he gave me a sense of safety. But because of my personality, I still disliked socializing. I tried my best to avoid him when going out. Every time I came home, I was terrified of running into him. I never knew what to talk about. It would be too awkward. Chapter 3. Because of my job, I occasionally attend anime conventions and in-person signing events. I'm always on guard around strangers, especially enthusiastic ones. But who could have guessed that during one signing event, a very extreme male fan would latch onto me? He secretly followed me several times, and somehow even figured out which apartment complex I lived in. When I bumped into him at the front gate, he acted completely normal, friendly even, saying he was a fan. I didn't think much of it. I have plenty of male fans anyway. Besides, I had been cosplaying every time I attended a signing event, with heavy makeup. I didn't expect he could still recognize me. But when I ran into him again at the bottom of my building, and he cheerfully greeted me like always, that's when I started getting nervous. At first, I blamed it on my anxiety, but his repeated appearances were becoming a real problem. And then, we got into the same elevator. He smiled at me, his tone overly familiar. What a coincidence, Sweet Cone. Sweet Cone, that was my fan nickname. My expression stiffened. Yeah, kind of. I only go out a few times a month, and every single time I ran into him. Even a mentally healthy person would get suspicious. And my mental state? Not exactly stable. I pressed the button for the floor above mine and got out one stop early. Thankfully, he didn't follow. As soon as the elevator doors closed, I rushed down the emergency stairs and ran straight to the door of the apartment next door. Marcus's door. My eyes kept darting toward the hallway and elevator, heart pounding like crazy. My eyes were even turning red. I've been afraid of trouble since childhood. People often mocked me for not being manly, but what was I supposed to say? They were right. I wasn't manly. At all. I knocked a few times, but panic set in. What if that guy suddenly came down and caught me standing here? Then I started wondering if I was overreacting. But then my mind immediately conjured horrible scenarios again, making my whole body shiver. Just as I was about to retreat to my own apartment, I heard footsteps inside. Then the door opened. Marcus, clearly just woken up, blinked at me in surprise. What's wrong? My eyes were red, and all the fear I usually felt toward him vanished. My voice trembled. Can I stay here for the night? Marcus frowned slightly, but didn't ask questions. He stepped aside. Come in. I walked in, pale and dazed. Marcus shut the door behind me and looked at my distracted expression. He didn't pry. My guest room is completely empty. If you don't mind, you can sleep in my room. Even though he'd lived here for a while, his place still looked cold and sparsely furnished. I shook my head, then nodded, completely out of it. Thank you. I can sleep on the sofa. I was too scared to go home. And what if this whole thing was a misunderstanding? I always overthink and panic easily. If he was just someone who happened to live here, and I jumped to conclusions, wouldn't that be awful? Besides, he hadn't actually done anything to me. Calling the police would be useless. I glanced at Marcus's broad, solid frame and felt a small sting of envy. If I had a body like that, maybe I wouldn't be such a scaredy cat. Marcus walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of warm water, and handed it to me. It's fine. I don't mind you sleeping in the same room as me. I took the glass with both hands, thinking, sorry, but I do mind. But I pursed my lips, naturally unwilling to say anything so rude. I wouldn't be so ungrateful when I was already causing him trouble. Since I didn't respond, Marcus assumed I had agreed. Chapter 4. But when I went to wash up, I finally calmed down. After struggling with myself for a long while, I approached Marcus, embarrassed. I think I should go back home. Our apartments were literally next door. If I were Marcus and my neighbor suddenly showed up asking to stay over, I'd definitely be shocked too. Marcus looked at my pale face and simply said, Okay, whatever you want. I stood up, and the moment I lifted my head, I met his sharp gaze. My heart tightened, not out of fear, but nervousness. Nervous the way a student gets when standing in front of a stern teacher, or a rabbit facing a wolf. He was just too tall, too strong, good-looking, muscular, and built like a tank. Yet his eyes were sharp enough to slice through me, and his aura alone could crush me flat. My heartbeat sped up uncontrollably. In a tiny voice, I asked, Marcus, can you walk me back? The moment I said it, my face heated up. I felt so useless, terrified over something so small. Sure, Marcus replied immediately. He grabbed his phone. Let's go. But the second he opened the door, I chickened out again. Damn all the crime stories I've read online. My nerves were a wreck. Still, with Marcus beside me, I felt a lot safer. I unlocked my door, flipped on the lights, and, because I didn't want him to leave just yet, asked in a hopeful tone, Do you want to come in for a bit? Marcus looked at me for 2 seconds. Maybe it was the first time he'd seen me being this friendly. After thinking it over, he stepped inside. The moment he entered, his sharp eyes scanned my apartment. Nothing unusual, just shelves full of merch and stacks of manga. Even though I didn't ask, Marcus, being surprisingly reliable, checked around the apartment for me, making sure everything was safe. When he confirmed there was nothing wrong, he said, I'm heading back. If anything happens, message me. I grabbed a bottle of milk from my fridge and offered it to him. Thank you, really. Marcus took it with a nod. Don't mention it. With that, he turned to leave. I saw him to the door, but when he reached the frame, Marcus looked down. I had grabbed the hem of his shirt. I arched my eyebrows and looked up, giving him a flattering smile. My second bedroom is really clean. Do you want to stay here for the night? His brows dropped slightly, giving him that fierce look again. I immediately let go. Sorry, Okay. Marcus looked down at my pitiful expression and interrupted gently. I can stay. I'll sleep on the sofa. My eyes lit up. The guest room is really clean. I clean it often. So Marcus stayed the night. While I was taking a shower, he sat on the sofa, deep in thought. He didn't feel there was anything wrong with spending the night at a neighbor's place. It was just... This was the first time he'd met someone like Jamie. It was hard to describe. Not exactly weak, but somehow someone who made you want to protect him. And the strange part was, this feeling was coming from another man. The realization made goosebumps crawl up Marcus's arms, and for a moment, his scalp tingled. He suddenly really wanted a cigarette. Chapter 5. When I came out of the bathroom, I saw him still sitting on the sofa. He was leaning forward slightly, his forearms resting on his thighs. His broad shoulders and strong back stretched naturally, forming a tall, perfect composition, the kind of posture that artists dream of. My fingers itched instantly. My brain automatically generated a full scene. A sofa, soft lighting, a well-proportioned, breathtaking man. Push the atmosphere a little further, and it becomes heated. On the sofa, there were two men, one with pale skin and a slender frame, the one above him tall and powerfully built, completely covering the blushing, delicate young man beneath him. From certain angles, you wouldn't even see what they were doing. Only the movement of their bodies and the vague, breathy sounds would give everything away. I snapped back to reality when Marcus turned his head at the sound of my footsteps. Going to sleep? I jolted upright. Guilt washed over me like cold water, and I quickly lowered my gaze. Yeah, you can go rest. Marcus stood and walked toward the guest room. I instinctively followed, only to stop when he turned around at the doorway and leaned casually against the frame, looking at me with a calm expression. A towel hung around my neck, my hair still damp. I hesitated, then finally asked, "Do you think I'm being strange?" Marcus answered honestly, "A little, but understandable." "Huh?" He raised a brow. "I don't think you're the kind of person who does strange things for no reason." Something inside me softened. My eyes widened a bit, and I pressed my lips together shyly. Marcus continued, "We're neighbors. It's normal to look out for each other. More contact is better. Helps both sides." I nodded hard. "You're really nice." Marcus actually smiled. "Your standard for judging people is too simple." My face flushed, and I gave him an equally mature retort. "Yours is too." Marcus laughed again, low and warm. "All right, call me if you need anything. Sleep well." I didn't bother him further and returned to the master bedroom. I hadn't told him I felt someone might be stalking me, not because I didn't want to, but because of my usual excessive anxiety. I worried that if I said it, he'd think I was mentally unstable and get scared of me. We weren't close enough yet. But instead of sleeping, I sat down, turned on my computer, and started working overtime. When I was scared earlier, I felt like quitting everything. Now that I'd calmed down, I was desperate to catch up on my deadlines. Plus, I was suddenly overflowing with inspiration. Honestly, Marcus's face and body aligned perfectly with every single trait I loved in two-dimensional characters. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, long legs, clean, defined facial lines, deep-set features, strong brows, sharp eyes, aggressive aura, unapologetically masculine. In short, extremely inspiring. Chapter 6. I got absorbed in my work without realizing how much time had passed. After a while, I suddenly heard a soft thump, thump, thump outside the door. The sound was tiny, barely noticeable, but because it was late at night and everything was quiet, it felt terrifyingly loud. A chill shot up from the soles of my feet straight to the top of my head. My face went pale instantly. The stylus in my hand trembled. Then I heard footsteps outside my door. Heart pounding, I grabbed my phone, ready to call the police. But a second later, there was a knock. "Jamie." A familiar voice. I jumped up immediately and rushed to open the door, my hand shaking so badly it was almost useless. The lights in the living room were already on. Marcus was standing there holding a small figurine, one of those collectible models. He turned when he heard the door open. "You." But when he saw my red, terrified eyes, he stopped mid-sentence. My hands were trembling uncontrollably, so I was gripping both the stylus and my phone too tightly. When he looked at me, my voice came out shaky and small. "Marcus, I heard a noise just now. It scared me." Marcus automatically lowered his voice, speaking gently. "I heard it too. Don't be scared. It was probably this thing." He didn't hand the figurine to me. Instead, with a few quick movements, he dismantled it. Sure enough, inside was a small chip. The figurine had actually moved on its own. No matter how you looked at it, it was creepy. My face turned even whiter. A fan gave me that. I didn't know it could move. Marcus had never asked what my job was, but he probably had an idea. He just looked stern. He wasn't clueless. I felt my throat tighten. When I took it home, I really checked it carefully. Marcus reassured me. This is custom made. It's not your fault. Don't worry. There's no camera or recording device. It was just a little controller chip that could be operated remotely, which meant, even worse, that someone had made it move in the middle of the night, causing it to jump off the shelf. Marcus didn't want to scare me further, but this thing was obviously controlled by someone. His expression darkened, brows tightening with anger. Seeing that I was still shaken, he checked the apartment again, room by room, making sure nothing else was wrong. Then he headed to the door, ready to step out and investigate. But I grabbed his wrist. Don't go out. It's too late. I was genuinely terrified. Marcus wanted to say it was fine, but when he saw my almost crying expression, he stopped. Should we call the police? I asked weakly, almost desperate. Marcus thought for a moment. This thing is low-level tech. Even if we report it, they might not be able to prove whether it moved on its own or was controlled. Incidents like this rarely get resolved, even if you call the police. Even if someone really was stalking me, the result might still be unsatisfying. But the real point was, Marcus looked into my trembling eyes and said firmly, I'm here, don't worry. Chapter 7. I looked at Marcus. My eyes were wet, but no actual tears fell. Marcus stared back at me uncontrollably, as if my eyes alone could toss his emotions into chaos. His voice softened again, so subtly he didn't even notice it himself. Don't be scared, it's just a little trick. He looked away, then looked back again. I furrowed my brows tightly and let out a soft, pitiful, We met each other's eyes again, silence hanging between us. I finally spoke first. Can you sleep with me? Marcus frowned, clearly wanting to refuse, but in the end he agreed. Honestly, he probably wasn't having a peaceful night himself. If he hadn't been awake, he wouldn't have shown up so fast. I couldn't concentrate on work anymore. I lay on my bed, unable to sleep. Quietly, I peeked at Marcus, who had his eyes closed. After a while, he finally lost patience and opened his eyes. How long are you planning to keep staring? The bedroom wasn't completely dark. In the faint glow, we could still see each other's faces. Caught red-handed, I didn't even have the energy to feel embarrassed. I've felt like someone's been following me the past few days, but I'm afraid I'm just being too sensitive. Marcus smelled faintly good. Clean, subtle, not a scent I was used to, but somehow comforting. He rubbed the tip of his nose lightly, noticing that my bed was softer than his. It's not your fault. Having awareness is smart, he said. Did you see someone suspicious today? Otherwise, I wouldn't have panicked and insisted on staying at his place first. I nodded. He said he was my fan. So I told Marcus everything that had happened over the past few days. With every detail, his brows drew tighter, his expression growing more severe. For now, don't go anywhere alone, he said firmly. Wherever you want to go, call me. Don't worry, we'll catch him. My tightly wound nerves finally loosened a bit. Thank you, Marcus. Marcus's breathing hitched slightly. He turned his back to me and said, Don't thank me. Sleep. Not wanting to disturb him further, I stayed quiet. A short while later, steady breathing came from beside him, but Marcus could not fall asleep. He let out a long, heavy exhale. Under the blanket, something made his night extremely uncomfortable. Beast. He scolded himself silently. Then Marcus started reciting multiplication tables in his mind, hoping that pure, simple math could cleanse the shameful thoughts in his head. Chapter 8. When I woke up the next morning, Marcus was no longer in the bed. I quickly sat up and rushed out of the bedroom. In the kitchen, he was cooking breakfast. His tall, straight silhouette moved around the kitchen with surprising ease, and the scene felt inexplicably warm. He looked over. You're awake? Go wash up. Come eat. Still dazed, I went to the bathroom. Splashing cold water on my face finally cleared my head. Sitting at the table, I apologized softly. Sorry, I caused you trouble. Marcus replied calmly. Don't overthink. You didn't trouble me. Then he changed the topic. By the way, do you like this kind of thing? I followed his gaze and froze. He had a manga on the table. Just the cover alone told me exactly what was inside. 2 male leads. Violence, forced love, yandere imprisonment, some explicit scenes. I was mortified. My face went red instantly. Marcus pointed out, it was on the coffee table. I assume it's not anything too bad to look at. I read a few pages. Pretty stimulating. My head nearly buried itself in my cereal bowl. Would you believe me if I said it belongs to a friend? Marcus countered. Do you think I would? Blushing furiously, I admitted, It was a gift, but it's mine. You weren't scared off by it, were you? Marcus replied, No, I actually found it quite interesting. My heart thumped uncontrollably at those words. I couldn't stop overthinking. What did he mean interesting? Interesting as in amusing? Or interesting as in he didn't mind this kind of content? Did he maybe have some sort of good feeling toward me? The thought alone made me instantly disgusted with myself. I wasn't just paranoid. I was also very good at imagining things. I lowered my head and ate silently. After breakfast, Marcus went next door to change clothes. I stared at him anxiously. If you have things to do, it's fine. I'll just stay home these days. Marcus shook his head. No, we need to go out. See if that fan appears again. Wait for me. I'll come back after I change. Okay. The moment he left, the house suddenly felt unsafe again. Every corner felt like it had eyes watching me. But after being scared to the point of numbness, I slowly stopped caring. Whatever. If someone's watching, then let them watch. If they dare show up, I'll just be fierce. I clenched my fists with a determined expression. When Marcus came back, he took me out. But for several days straight, that fan never appeared again. I grew confused. Maybe I really was just being overly sensitive. Guilt crept in. I thought too badly of someone who liked me. Marcus removed his jacket and gently pushed me back inside. Sensitive is fine. Thinking the worst is fine. Jamie, you have the right to be cautious of anyone, and you have the right to assume the worst of them. But that's not good. Marcus suddenly stopped walking. He lowered his head, leaned close to my face, and in an overwhelming tone said, What's wrong with it? If I say it's fine, it's fine. His sudden closeness stopped my breath. My face flushed uncontrollably, and I bit my lip, unable to reply. Marcus's lips curved slightly, a faint smile flashing in his eyes. Chapter 9. Although we didn't run into the fan again, Marcus had already gone to the property management to get the surveillance footage. He identified the person's face and warned the staff to look out for him. Marcus didn't believe the situation was a misunderstanding, and it was always better to be cautious. Still, he didn't seem too bothered by the threat itself. I felt so insecure at home that I ended up moving in with Marcus for a few days, bringing my computer and other essentials over. Living at his place had its inconveniences, but because our apartments were right next to each other, I could just pop home for anything I needed. More importantly, my relationship with Marcus had subtly grown much closer. He was also much more relaxed in his own space. For example, he would work out in the living room, always keeping a fixed schedule for exercise. While he worked out, sweat would bead on his solid muscles, dampening his dark tank top. Soon enough, his steady breathing would become ragged and heavy. I would sneak a glance, and my face would flush uncontrollably. After his workout and shower, Marcus would put on comfortable loungewear and start cooking. He lived a very disciplined lifestyle, unlike me. I either ordered takeout or haphazardly cooked something quick, which was both tasteless and unhealthy. Sometimes I would see him on long phone calls, and his expression would become quite stern. When he occasionally went out, he would tell me to double lock the door, warning me not to open it for anyone, and to call him if anything happened. In a strange way, Marcus and I had started cohabiting. His guest room remained messy, but after several nights of sleeping in the same bed, Marcus seemed a bit restless. Tonight, he decided to sleep on the sofa instead. That night, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. I felt a mix of guilt, a vague sense of sadness, and an unspoken, fluttering excitement. I couldn't resist getting up. I wanted Marcus to take the bed and decided I would sleep on the sofa. But as I opened the door, I heard a faint sound, mixed with the rough, suppressed breathing of a man. Marcus had been holding back so fiercely lately that he couldn't resist indulging in some self-release. Because of this, he didn't even hear me open the door. He only became alert when I walked closer. His brow was tightly knitted, and a flash of aggression burst in his eyes. But he didn't stop. The hand beneath the thin blanket was still moving. The moment I got close, the man's eyes sharply darted over and seized my gaze. My pupils trembled. I stared at his movements and expression, my mind blank for a moment. Marcus's rough voice cut through the air. Go back. I unconsciously shivered. I should have fled, but I was guided by an impulse and walked closer. My voice echoed in the darkness. Do you need help? The moment I said it, my face erupted in heat. I immediately felt terribly awkward, But meeting Marcus's intense, aggressive eyes, I asked again, completely flustered, "Do you need help?" Marcus's Adam's apple bobbed. He suddenly sat up, the blanket around his waist threatening to slip. I didn't hesitate anymore. I walked over and sat down beside him. As my hand went to touch him, I immediately tried to pull it back, but Marcus grabbed it hard and firmly pinned it in place. My eyes widened abruptly. It was terrifying. Yet, I gathered my courage, leaned in, and kissed him on the cheek. I was deeply worried, thinking I might be reading too much into things. Maybe he didn't feel this way at all, and I was being presumptuous, both liking him and believing he liked me too. With a whoosh, Marcus grabbed my waist with one hand, and with a powerful pull, pinned my overthinking body down on the sofa. The sofa wasn't narrow, but accommodating two grown men made it cramped, and the closeness only generated more friction. He fiercely blocked my lips with his own. My eyelashes fluttered, and I threw my arms around his neck, responding to the kiss. Neither of us spoke. Raw desire simply exploded. His rough, unreserved, and savage movements felt like they were trying to devour me whole. He was so excited. He was giving me a real, tangible response. I hadn't been imagining things. I wasn't ignorant about intimacy between men. After all, I had not only read about it, but drawn quite a bit of it myself. Lying on the sofa, I consciously arched my back and pressed my legs together. Marcus looked like he was going insane. His chest pressed against my back, grinding with every heave of his breathing. He pressed himself against me even harder. Jamie, let's be together, Jamie." He had held back for so long. Undeniably, his emotions were surging. Every part of him screamed possession and affection. And he had always imagined from my constantly darting eyes, "He likes me, right? Jamie likes me too, right?" His voice made my heart tremble, sparking a kind of fear. Not terror, but the profound tension of something unknown about to happen. I replied with all my strength. "Okay." Chapter 10. Marcus cupped my face and kissed me deeply. His fierce, consuming movements left my mind blurry, my body melting under his touch. Ambiguity between grown men always goes both ways. And I'll admit, long before this, every time our eyes met, I felt something pulling between us, an unspoken yet chaotic tension. Pinned beneath him, marked by his teasing, my skin flushed a delicate pink, covered in faint traces of intimacy. For days, it continued. Wild, unstoppable. Marcus was strong and tall. He would lift me and carry me effortlessly. I was always terrified of falling and would cling to him tightly. Wrapped in a blanket, my back would suddenly press against the cold wall. His gaze darkened. "I saw the drawings you made." I froze. "Sorry." It sounded exactly like admitting guilt. But how would Marcus know he was the inspiration behind them? I quickly added, "It's just, you have a very strong presence. I didn't mean anything by it." His large hand slid down to grip my thigh. His long fingers squeezed hard enough that the pale skin dipped between them, leaving a faint red mark behind. A sharp sting made me arch upward in surprise. Marcus's lips curled. My heart dropped. He carried me into the walk-in closet and pressed me firmly against the mirror, movements fierce and dominant. The cold surface made me shiver. I couldn't resist at all. His solid chest pressed against my back. The contrast in our physiques, our skin tones reflected in the mirror, was overwhelming. He lowered his head and bit my ear. "Baby, look, is this enough tension for you?" My hand clenched into a fist against the mirror. My scalp tingled. My voice broke. I only knew how to say whatever he wanted to hear, breathlessly begging in fragments. The past few days were too much. Marcus was covered in my scratch marks, and whenever we were close, he would grab my chin to kiss me, and one kiss would turn into everything. His desire seemed endless, fueled by emotions he never bothered to hide, fierce, raw, overwhelming. We spent days wrapped in shameless passion. But even if Marcus didn't go out, I still had to go to the office. Last year, my manga had signed an animation rights deal, and I needed to meet with the editor to discuss the next steps. Most things were already settled online, so I just needed to attend a meeting. Marcus also had errands, so he drove me there. He told me to call him when I finished, and he'd come pick me up. But I didn't want to disrupt his day, so when I was done, I sent him a message and took a taxi home myself. I never imagined I'd run into that fan I hadn't seen in almost a month. He didn't approach me. He just stared at me with hatred, like I had betrayed him. I was terrified. Thankfully, he didn't follow me. When Marcus came home, I tried my best to sound calm as I told him what happened. His face instantly darkened. He cupped my face, not blaming me at all for coming home alone. In fact, he looked guilty. Baby, this is my fault. I wrapped my arms around his waist and kissed him. In that moment, it felt like only Marcus could fill the fear inside me. Breathless, I lay against him, our chests pressed together, thighs touching. His arms wrapped tightly around my back, his fingers trailing lightly along my spine, sending shivers through me. Then he murmured, "Don't be scared, wife. If he dares show up, I'll beat him to death." His strong muscles were still tense, still full of barely restrained power. When he said things like that, they held real weight. I couldn't help but laugh softly. Okay. Chapter 11. The next morning, I was jolted awake by a phone call. My editor sounded frantic as he told me something big had happened. I opened the trending entertainment list, and to my shock, I was on the hot search. I considered myself a niche artist, but it seemed I had genuinely gone viral. Unfortunately, the reason I blew up was because of a scandal. Someone exposed that Sweet Cone was living together with another man. They even posted photos, although the marketing account blurred them out to avoid legal trouble. Fans were extremely disappointed at first. The marketing account's caption was deliberately misleading, implying I had a messy private life. Anger shot through me. I immediately posted a serious response on my own social media. 1. My privacy was violated. I will pursue legal action. 2. Yes, I do have a male partner, but there is nothing indecent about my private life. 3. I am also addressing the issue of fan-given gifts being tampered with. 4. I am preparing to file a police report. The moment I posted it, the entire comment section exploded. Fans went wild. Not in anger, but out of worry and affection. Not only did I not lose followers, I actually gained a whole wave of CP shippers. The anime's popularity skyrocketed so fast that the editor and the platform practically begged to move up the release date. And even though the photo was blurred, people could still tell that the man beside me had an extraordinary aura and was tall. Just from the height and build alone, fans began creating content on their own. Of course, I also received criticism and insults. But I was an adult, and I had someone to protect, so my attitude remained firm. Marcus watched me with a serious expression, and although he wanted to laugh, his eyes gradually darkened. Later that day, after reporting everything to the police, we walked back into the apartment complex. Suddenly, from a side path, a man rushed out holding a knife, heading straight for Marcus. He screamed viciously, "It's you! You corrupted Sweet Cone! Die!" I nearly jumped out of my skin. Marcus immediately shoved me aside and kicked the man. The attacker couldn't even get close. Marcus took him down in seconds. Security rushed over and the police were called again. By the time everything was sorted out, it was already late at night. Exhausted, I collapsed onto Marcus's chest and exhaled shakily. Today scared me to death. Marcus wrapped an arm around me, pulling me closer. "Don't be scared, I'm here." I kissed him softly. "Thank you, husband." Marcus bit me lightly. "I don't like verbal thank yous. Too formal, baby. You should show it with actions." When it came to moments like this, he was always fierce. Can't help it. His physique alone made him overwhelming. Final chapter. Marcus had his own company. He started in software development and later expanded into other fields. The reason he had been resting for so long lately was because he had disagreements with his business partner. He planned to go independent. He wasn't in a rush, though. For now, he took over some branches of his family business and was preparing to start fresh at his own pace. After we got together, I did start going out more, but I was still a homebody. Unless Marcus arranged for us to go somewhere, I rarely took the initiative. With him around, I didn't need to prepare anything. I just followed him. Everything felt safe. Meeting each other's parents had a few bumps here and there, but overall, it went smoothly. Marcus, however, was always excessive when it came to intimacy. He even researched different positions, then leaned close and asked, "Baby, does this have enough tension? Do you like it? You drew this one, didn't you? I'm trying to understand it. Can we go deeper? My eyes would be misty with embarrassment. I'd glare at him, both ashamed and annoyed. Don't go too far. Even my anger sounded more like flirting. Marcus absolutely loved it. He would stop teasing, scoop me up in his arms, and hold me tightly. "Wife, I love you." And all I could do was hold him back and whisper, "I love you too." The end.